essentially the thing that we're trying to avoid here when we are trying to push the lead and follow of a pose is the idea. How do I want to put this? We're trying to avoid the pose to pose feeling. So let me actually go full screen here and kind of show this uh, visually, and then we'll go into Maya. So when we're keying, we might have a pose here, and then we might have a pose here. Now, if we have those two poses there, we'll have a character, if we just spline it, that goes like this. Everything is moving all together. That's boring. That's not interesting to look at. So what we want to do is we want to break down that action. Now, the way we do that is lead and follow. So for example, I'm starting here. I might lead with my head. And I start turning the head first, then my body. Now my head reaches the end and my body follows through. So if I go at speed here, instead of doing this, we're going like that. My head led the action and then stopped. Simple when we see it, like it is basic movement. But how do we work that in our animation? So let's do this here. I'm going to focus only on the IK control and IK, or the head control here, just to make this a little bit easier. And let's just bring those arms down so they don't get in the way. Actually, I'll just key the whole thing here and we'll see what we get. Okay, so we're going to have our character start here. Maybe get a little bit of a 3/4 angle there. And then they're going to turn their body and their head and kind of look up here. And let's get a little bit of an arc right through there. And maybe we'll drop the shoulders down. So essentially we're going from here to here. Very basic animation. So we're getting that motion. But like I said, if we just play through it, we're going to get this. Doesn't look really good. It's just very basic, straight, one pose into the next. Very boring. So how do we push the lead and follow? Well, this is where breakdowns come in. And breakdowns, for anyone who doesn't know, is a key. It is still a key, but it's a special key. It's a key that describes how things are moving. Essentially, we're using breakdowns as a way of telling the computer, the drawing essentially, what should lead, what should follow, what's happening in a movement. So, for example, I want the head to lead here. Well, let's just take a key here. I'm going to put a key here on frame 6, just randomly. There's no real reason for that, just for the sake of it. And if I just take everything, set a key, you're going to see everything keeps moving. Everything just slides still. Because I haven't done anything. I just put a key in there. So to make this lead and follow, well, I could push the head forward here. So now you can see that the head is starting to move faster. So that's already pushing that lead of the head. But more so, and this is what really helps break up your pose to pose feeling, is that the body doesn't have to move yet. I can keep that body still, or maybe have a micro motion in there. So what I'm going to do is just copy the pose from earlier on here. And now you can see that the head starts to lead. And maybe I'll just add a tiny little bit of motion to the body, just a little bit of sympathetic motion in there. And the shoulders, I'm not going to have them move at all yet. So I'm just copying from frame 1, putting it onto frame 6. And now we've got the head starting to lead the action. Now the body turns here. Now let's go towards the end. Now at the end, I want the head to reach first and then the body to keep going. So let's go here, right around there. And kind of the same thing, but in reverse now. I want the head to be in this position by this point. So I'm just going to go back here on frame 18. And I'm just going to get that head to be pretty darn close to that final position right in there. Okay. So what does that give me? Well, now, as the head turns, we have that lead of the head. The body stays still. because we put that extra key to keep that body still as the head moves. Then things kind of move together here a little bit, but the head's still leading. As the head comes in here, the head has reached its final position as the body ends its movement right there. See that? I don't know how clear it is here. But what that creates is that, again, breakup of motion. His head has reached its final position, and then everything else catches up and settles. Now I can add even more to that. So for example, I could have the body reach its final position here by frame 21. And now at the end, let's actually bring these shoulders back up slightly right here. Now at the end, ooh, that's a little too much. Now at the end right here, we have just the shoulders dropping as the body has stayed still. So something like that. So now we have that lead and follow. The head leads the action. Is a little isolated right now. You'd want to have it. So this is where you could break it down even more. It's non-stop. Like we could keep going and going. So for example, as it's turning right now, the whole head is just going right across. Boring. We usually lead with our jaw or our top of the head. So we either do this or we do this. A big exaggeration there, but we have that a little bit of a lead there. So for example, here, what I can do is I'll set a key right there. And as the head starts to move, I'll try to make sure that his hair, see how his hair is moving screen right and his chin is moving screen right? I'm just going to make it so that his hair moves a lot less. And I could even have it move a little bit screen left before coming across. So now we're leading with the chin. I might tilt his head down as well. We get a little bit of an arc in there. But I'd want to push this pose as well just a little bit to kind of work with that. So very rough. I feel like I need an extra frame in there. Why am I polishing this thing? But right there, now we've got even more of a breakdown where not only is his head leading, but now his chin specifically is leading the action, then the top of his head, then his body, then his shoulders. He comes to a stop. His head reaches the final position. His body then reaches the final position. Then his shoulders reach the final position. Now I don't have a pose-to-pose animation. I've got a natural animation. But it all started from pose 1, pose 2, and I didn't offset any keys here. I just put in more detail within my keys. I hope that makes sense. Now, I can show a little bit more of a detailed demo that I did do on Twitch here. I have to remember. One day I'll organize all my demos. That would be a nice thing to do. So let's see. What if I did the same thing but in just 2 frames? Wait, I think I missed something here. You could do it if you're talking about this. You can do it in 2 frames. That's not a problem. It would just be a lot faster. So this was an animation test we had done on the stream here. So this was a facial test, just going from very basic expressions. Now this was the very first pass. This was the rough, just timing kind of ideation of the thing. And you can see the expressions, not that great. From there, we moved on to this, where we really tried to push the expressions. But you can still see it feels very pose to pose. The character goes from this pose here, and everything starts to move all at the same time. Right through there. Ugh, boring. So we've got our nice poses, but everything in the middle still feels dead. It's not fun to look at. Now, this version here, we started breaking things up. So this first motion right through there, you can see as he's going through, the brow well, actually, we get a tiny twitch in the eyelid here. Then the brow leads the action. Then his eyes are moving and his head has started moving here. And then we have this big change in the face right there where the mouth finally kicks in and everything comes in. And you can see his expression has settled way before his head has settled. So his expression kind of hits right here. And then his head finishes that movement there. It's the same thing that I just did, but with a bunch of different extra elements in there. And if we look at the final version here, I believe this is the final version. Yeah, so it's just that on the whole shot now. So it's breaking up those motions so that you don't just have that straight pose to pose and really pushing the lead and follow. And sometimes what lead and follow means is that something will move while something else does not move. Sometimes it's usually with a little sympathetic motion, so it's not dead on screen, but it's trying to hold something still while something else starts and then moving them and keeping them from feeling like they're just doing this, where everything's moving together. So I hope that makes sense. And if you have questions on that, definitely let me know. And will I still offset the keys? Yes. At some point, I will start offsetting keys. And we're going to see this as we go through all of the exercises that I'm going to do today. There are going to be times where I offset keys. There are other times where I will just key it myself and just put things where I want it to be. So it's really dependent on the moment. I don't have offsetting I don't offset keys as my default most of the time, simply because it tends to make things very messy, especially in the early stages. Like if you're blocking or first pass splining, if you're starting to offset a bunch of keys without a really clear plan on what's happening, your shot can just devolve into a mess. So we want to really be careful of that. Now, if you know what you're doing and you know what you're expecting to get, then definitely feel free to offset keys. See, so it's nothing wrong if you have the lead part not moving for several frames. Yeah, that's totally fine. Or it should have a really small movement. So honestly, it depends on the style. Usually you want the tiniest little movement. In most CG shots, you're going to have a moving hold. So even if something is holding, it's still alive. And that applies to any hold. So if I'm just standing here and I do this, I'm going to have some sort of breath cycle on my body. So it's never going to be totally still. So even if I'm just moving the head and nothing's happening down here, it'll still feel alive. But if you're doing stylized animation like Hotel Transylvania, The Bad Guys, Puss in Boots, you could have one part of the body move and another part stay absolutely still. And that's totally fine. It really comes down to stylistic choices.